Good evening and a very warm welcome to this New Year's Day edition of Coast to Coast. In tonight's programme, the big win for a Dorset woman that turned sour. We preview the weekend sport and we welcome TVS and Shelley Gregory, both born at exactly the same time. Well, the New Year has seen its usual revelry, but it's also seen some very unseasonal violence.
While most people were wishing each other well for the New Year early today, Berkshire police were counting the cost of keeping the peace. This smashed-up patrol car is just the start. 4 policemen were hurt. One was struck and concussed by a wine bottle hurled across the street during the height of a brawl. It all began at the Three Crowns at Bucklebury, normally a quiet village just outside Newbury. Landlord Charles Kennedy takes up the story.
Well, the disco is packing up, and we'd just finished singing Auld Lang Syne, and as people were leaving, so they were set upon by a gang, from across the road. I mean, they weren't people that had been in the pub, they were just waiting outside to cause trouble, as we were finishing.
Police were called and things looked like just disappearing into the night until a girl kicked in the headlamp of a patrol car. As they moved in to arrest her, the whole place erupted into violence, with the police at its focus. But isn't all this just part of the normal police routine for New Year celebrations? Chief Inspector John Chamberlain.
I don't think we ever accept police officers being injured as part of the job. It's inevitable with these sort of situations sometimes, but obviously we never like our police officers getting injured.
So how seriously do you view this?
It was a nasty incident while it lasted. Let's not blow it up out of proportion. It wasn't that serious, but it's a sort of incident we could well do without.
Newbury police say that 3 arrests have been made. And in Bournemouth, 5 policemen were injured in scuffles with late-night revellers. Workmen were called out today to board up smashed shop windows. And they literally had to bring on the New Year themselves by resetting the clock in the square. It stopped at 1:15 to midnight when a brick was flung through the face. 10 people appeared before a special court this morning, charged with assault or breaching the peace. Fines range between £50 and £200.
Hunt saboteurs chased hounds for miles across downs near Worthing today in an attempt to stop a kill. Armed with aerosol sprays, they outnumbered the huntsmen from the Brighton and Storrington Foot Beagles at their New Year meet at Findon. A getaway car used by 2 raiders who stabbed a postmaster at Southwick in Hove was recovered today a mile from the scene.
The red Austin 1100 was found in Gladys Avenue at Hove. It was used by 2 men who raided the sub-post office in Southwick yesterday, getting away with around £1,000. The men held a knife at the throat of the sub-post mistress, Mrs. Josephine Barrett, and forced her to lie on the ground. When her 62-year-old husband, Douglas, tried to help her, he was stabbed twice. He was taken to hospital seriously injured, but is now off the danger list. Mrs. Barrett wasn't hurt. The raiders used the car as their getaway vehicle and managed to evade roadblocks. Police now believe the men switched vehicles and they want to trace a green 1100 registration number EHC79F, which is believed to have been the switch car.
The price of history goes up tomorrow as the Department of the Environment introduce increased charges at most of the South's famous public monuments. At Stonehenge, one of Britain's top tourist attractions, tickets will cost 60p, and it'll cost £1.80 to get into Osborne House on the Isle of Wight. Queen Victoria used to live there, and it's now the most expensive government stately home in the south. Well, after the Christmas festivities, you're probably starting to feel just a little bit guilty about all those extra pounds you've put on. But not Mr. Minter from Purbrook near Waterlooville. He actually wants to put on weight.
Today, John Minter from Coatesway at Purbrook weighed in at the Woodman at a trim 10 stone 7 pounds. Over the next 6 weeks, he's hoping to munch and gulp his way through enough food to put on 3 stone. In the process, he's aiming to raise more than £500 for muscular dystrophy. John, if I can just interrupt your practice, how are you going to put on 3 stone in 6 weeks? That's a phenomenal amount of weight.
Well, for a start, it's very difficult, right? The first thing I'm going to pack up drinking. There's a lot of people say you shouldn't pack up drinking, you should carry on, but with me, if I drink a lot, I can't eat. So I'm going to pack up drinking. I've already packed up smoking 12 o'clock, and I'm just going to eat as much as I can, as often as I can.
What sort of foods?
I haven't really thought of any particular food. But
lots of chips and...
Chips,
bread, butter...
Bread, cheese, butter, all that sort of thing, yes.
But you're a very slim man naturally. What's the fattest you've ever been?
My fattest is About 12 stone, I think. 12, just over 12. But I don't know what that weight on, but that's my biggest.
But you've got to go another 1.5 stone beyond that. Can
Yeah.
you do it in the 6 weeks?
Whether I can or not, I don't know, but I will do it.
The 130-year-old village school at Heriot, near Basingstoke, one of the oldest in the area, is to close. It has just 15 pupils. A plan to mine 150,000 tonnes of clay on the site of an old Roman settlement near Corfe Castle in Dorset has alarmed archaeologists. The plans come from the English China Clay Company, who say that the operation will involve digging an open pit 90 feet deep. Meanwhile, the Duke of Wellington has won his battle to stop gravel being extracted from the doorstep of his country park at Stratfield Say, near Basingstoke. Rail users in the south may escape the full effects of next week's industrial action by train drivers. British Rail say that the only problems could be on the routes to London, where services may be cut by 10%. Bus users in the south also face bad news, with some of the major operators in the region announcing fare increases, along with cuts in services and possible reviews of routes. A flying start to the new year for young musicians from the Isle of Wight. Today, the island's youth concert band left for Florida for 2 weeks in the sun. The 72 youngsters, aged between 12 and 20, have each saved up £250 towards the cost of the trip. The rest was raised at coffee mornings on the Isle of Wight and at concerts to give a resounding start to the new year. Isle of Wight Youth Concert Band off to Florida, where no doubt they'll find it somewhat warmer. Well, I suppose if you're the kind of person who likes a bet now and again, one of the things you could be looking forward to in the new year is a really big win. And it does happen from time to time, but for one Dorset woman, the big win didn't exactly turn out as she'd expected.
Lynn Leschenou from Wimborne in Dorset staggered racing circles with a once-in-a-lifetime win. She scooped in excess of £15,000 with her each-way Yankee bet with a bookmaker in Southampton. Her £22 flutter meant she'd accumulated 22 bets in all, and incredibly, she came up on the lot. A great way to go into 1982. The problem is that she's still waiting for all her winnings. The bookmakers in Southampton's Beavers Valley Road are Fair Deal Limited.
Well, the situation is I put on a bet at Fair Deal, £1 each way Yankee, and the bet came up and I won, and I can't get any money out of them.
How much did you win altogether?
Well, I won 15,500, but they had a £5,000 limit.
I see. Now, you have in fact had 1,000 of that money, haven't you, so far?
Yes, I have, yes.
So they now owe you 4,000.
That's correct.
Now, and they have in fact sent you cheques, haven't they?
Yes, I've had 2 cheques.
What happened with those?
Well, the first cheque I presented and it bounced, and it was represented and it bounced again. So if it was presented a 3rd time, it would have been invalid. So they sent me another cheque, which I asked for, and that cheque again bounced. It was represented again and bounced again.
Bookmakers sometimes cover themselves by placing bets like Mrs. Leschenoux's with another bookie. Mr. Robert Lunn is in charge of Fair Deal.
Well, at the time that the bet was placed, there was an informal agreement between myself and another bookmaker. We were discussing with a view to a partnership. And the arrangement was that any large bet that started to run up, I should firm through to him and he would take the appropriate action necessary to lay it off, since he had all the necessary laying off accounts and so on.
Yes.
This bet, when it started to run up after the second horse had won, was firm through to him, and no action was taken by him to cover the bet at all.
Now, this lady won around £15,000 to £17,000, but you only allow her to collect £5,000 because you have a limit on bets. Why is that?
All small shops have fairly low limits, usually in the region of 5, 7.5 or 10,000, depending on the size of the shop. They're there for the protection, if you like, of the shop, in that any small shop can't stand large bets.
Bearing in mind that you trade at a shop which bears the sign Fair Deal, would you accept that this was anything but a fair deal?
I would indeed, yes. I can do nothing more than apologise to the lady in question and assure her that the circumstances were not of my making, and that
So what if it happens again?
That's just what I was going to say, that steps have now been taken to ensure that such a thing will not happen again.
Robert Lunn has since told us that he'll pay Mrs. Lechenou £100 a month plus interest. But what exactly are the legal issues at stake in a situation like this? We'll be returning to the subject on Monday, when there may also be a pleasant surprise in store for Mrs. Lechenou. Well, I wonder if there are any surprises in store in the third round of the FA Cup tomorrow. What do you reckon, Fred?
Well, Colin, I don't know about surprises, but Brighton might well have their hands full on their visit to Barnet of the Alliance Premier League. It's a game really that Brighton ought to deal with easily enough, but they remember only two defeats against non-league teams in recent years, to Walton and Hersham, and on one famous occasion to Leatherhead. Well, this was the goal that did it, scored by Chris Kelly, otherwise known as the Leatherhead Lip, to the obvious delight of his manager. So who needs commentators anyway? Well, Brighton have come a long way since then, but it still won't be easy tomorrow, and they'll find Barnet's ground very different from their usual First Division haunts. Gareth Evans now reports.
It's the first time that Barnet's humble ground has seen First Division opposition in a competitive match, and the biggest crowd they can expect will be around 7,000. The odds may be stacked against the part-timers, but they do have one special advantage. And this is it, the infamous Barnet pitch. It slopes quite steeply from end to end, very different from the type of playing surfaces Brighton are used to. This fact, coupled with home advantage, could more than compensate for Barnet's inferior skills. Yet, if footballers' superstitions are anything to go by, tomorrow's result could hinge on the toss of a coin. You see, some of the Barnet players believe that Lady Luck will desert them if they play downhill the first half. So for captain John Watson, it's very important to win the toss and play uphill. It's a decision which will be closely watched by this man, Barnet's new signing, Danny Westwood. He's just come from 3rd Division Gillingham, where he scored 84 goals. Well, Danny, do you foresee any problems for Brighton playing on this pitch tomorrow?
Well, obviously, you know, they must have a few problems, because you can see the state of it for yourself, and with the slope and that, you know, with 10 minutes to go in the second half, there could be a few problems for them, yes.
You've actually played on the Goldstone ground. You know how good it is, don't you?
Yes, it's immaculate. I've played a reserve game there, and it's in very good condition, yes. There'll be a big difference for them.
So if you were still a league player, how would you feel about coming here to play?
Well, I wouldn't be very happy, obviously. You know, no league player likes going to non-league clubs, and they've got to fight on it. You know, it's going to be very tough for them.
I know, Danny, you've only played one game for your new club, but from what you've seen so far, are they potential giant killers?
Very possibly. They've got some good players, great team spirit, and I think we'll do very well on the day. Yeah, I'm sure of that.
So a warning there for Brighton, but they do have some good news tonight. Michael Robinson makes a surprise comeback only 2 weeks after an operation on damaged knee ligaments. Meanwhile, Southampton, they're at full strength for their tie at Leicester, while Bournemouth, in the third round for the first time since 1969, hope for their best gate of the season for the match against Oxford. Well, basketball now, and the remarkable rise of Solent Stars continued in some style today. At Crystal Palace, the Southampton club beat Anderlecht of Belgium by 108 points to 96 to reach the finals of the Phillips World Club Championships. Real progress, I reckon, for a team who only last season were playing in the National Basketball League's 2nd Division. Well, I'll be back on Sunday at 4:30 with the Sunday Sports Show, and lots of really excellent FA Cup action in that one. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, back to Khalid.
Thank you very much, Fred. And don't forget, with the approach to sport, rather special approach to sport on TVS, we'll have Fred back very regularly on Coast to Coast. Well, meanwhile, at 9:30 this morning, we were busy raising the TVS flag over our studios at Southampton. At the same time, Shelley Gregory was making her timely arrival. More on that in just a couple of moments. Coast to Coast on what is really a rather momentous day for all of us here on TVS. And it's been a momentous day too for those rather special babies who were born on New Year's Day. And this is one of two born at the Princess Anne Hospital in Southampton, young Shelley with mum Lynn. And when was she born?
9:30 this morning.
Exactly the same time as TVS was born. On the air at 9:30. And so did this one pop out. And was it fairly straightforward?
Yes.
Now, Dad Gary, where were you at the time?
I was there, watching it all.
Any help, was he, or just did he get in the way?
No, he was a great help.
Well, many congratulations, and can we, on this special day for all of us really, present you with this christening tankard.
Thank you very much.
Just the thought, you know, child born today will come of age in the year 2000, which is something really to think on. Very fine-looking Shelley Gregory sharing a birthday with TVS. But great births aren't the only things that have been happening today. There's been quite a lot of other things going on as well.
Yes, more than 150 car enthusiasts roared down the A30 today for a get-together, conveniently, at a pub in Hartley-Wintney in Hampshire. Modern sports cars joined old Edwardian Crocs for the meeting, which is held every New Year's Day, and it was all arranged by the Vintage Sports Car Club. The new year got off to a spectacular start too at Weymouth Harbour and Portland. Beacons were lit to mark the start of Maritime England Year. They formed part of a chain of beacons around the coast in an operation called Seafire. The Weymouth beacon was built by local sea cadets, and staff from a Portland hotel built theirs on waste ground. Meanwhile, nearly 1,000 people in Hampshire started the new year on the run. They took part in the Hangover Handicap at Tweedledown Racecourse at Crookham to work off the effects of the night before. The race was in aid of the St John's Ambulance Brigade. Last year they raised hundreds of pounds for the Italian Earthquake Disaster Fund. And how about this for a way to bring in 1982 with a splash? 9 men dressed as women, apparently there was one real woman there somewhere, jumped off a bridge into the River Arun at Littlehampton as part of the Penley Lifeboat Appeal Fund. The freezing start to the day was worth it because they raised £500, no doubt spurred on by the prospect of a warm-up in the village pub.
Well, as you might imagine, it's been a pretty exciting New Year's Day for us here at TVS. Along with my colleagues, I was up with the lark to get us on the air with a special programme called Bring in the New, which started at 9:30. It was a pretty hectic time for all as the South's brand new television station wound itself up and burst onto your screens for the first day of 1982.
Dawn over Northam and Southampton. It's New Year's Day, and a brand new day for a television station. Television South is about to be launched.
We hope that this will...
The chairman, Lord Boston of Faversham, prepares to raise the station flag to signal a new era in television history for the south of England.
Parts of the region. I've never actually launched a ship before, and I hope that this operation will work successfully. We have complete confidence in the technical facilities. Having said that, it now gives me very great pleasure, and I hope with success, to press the button to fly the TVS flag.
What can the viewers expect now of Television South?
First of all, I think the advantage that it's a dual region, so there will be coverage on news and current affairs in the two halves of the region. For the first time in this way ever, it's a dual region, and we hope too, in making a contribution to some of the more specialized programs like children's and young adults, programs on industry and science, music and the arts, those 3 special spheres to give a complete coverage to our viewers. That's what we hope.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
To Director James Gatwood, it was on with the show.
Cut! Now get to work!
There's 1 minute of this left, 1 minute, then we're coming out to the newsroom here.
9:30 this morning in the Coast to Coast newsroom, and Chris Pollard faces the camera to deliver the station's first news of the day.
Yeah.
One of the policemen was taken to hospital after being struck by a wine bottle, but he wasn't detained.
And the
Today, Television South made its own news at the end of a year's preparation, which involved recruiting 200 extra staff committed to supplying programs for almost 5 million viewers and covering an area of more than 700 square miles. Khalid Aziz introduced Bring in the New, and there was a scene stealer in a 9-week-old English Springer Spaniel who just happened to sport the station's colours of brown and cream.
And we're looking for a name for her, so perhaps you can help. Anyway.
Beginning of term for Television South means a staff photograph, putting the faces behind and in front of the camera in focus. And just in case anyone was caught with a feeling of too much first-day euphoria, Lord Boston had this parting shot for the BBC.
TVS, beware of imitation.
Beware indeed. Chris Peacock reporting on the birth of a station. Well, so far today it's been pretty damp and misty, so let's find out whether it's all going to improve. The man in the know, Trevor Baker.
It's going to improve in parts, Khalid. It's certainly going to be a mild weekend. There won't be any snow anywhere in the region, but there will be rain about tomorrow, though I think Sunday will be a mostly dry day. Sunday probably the better of the 2 days. Now, we have a lot of fog in the Midlands, which is moving south into our area now. This will clear away during the night and then be replaced by rain coming in from the Atlantic ahead of these fronts. And they'll move through during the course of tomorrow, and then behind them, that rather brighter weather will come in to replace the rain. Now, here's the satellite picture that was taken this afternoon, and there's the thick band of cloud here covering Ireland, which is bearing the cloud, which is bearing the rain, and that is moving towards us fairly quickly. Right, here's the forecast chart for noon tomorrow. And rain will spread from the southwest to the northeast across the whole of the country during the course of the day, but an improvement will spread into Ireland and into Wales and southwest England by about midday, into the rest of the country during the rest of the afternoon and evening. And sea crossings, which are fairly smooth now, will become quite choppy tonight and rather rough tomorrow. Now, in the south, the main hazard this evening is fog, which is going to develop fairly widely over our area. It's already started in places, but that will clear by about the middle of the night. Most of the night dry, but by late night, early in the morning, right about dawn time, rain will start to get into Wiltshire and Dorset and then move steadily across the whole of the region. So everywhere there'll be rain during the course of the morning and perhaps in the early afternoon as well. And then it'll all clear away. And by the end of the day, we may well get at least a little sunshine. But on the whole, it'll be a cloudy day. Our temperatures tonight will fall to about 1 degree centigrade, so there'll be ground frost in many places. But during the night, the temperatures will go up, and by tomorrow afternoon, they'll be up to about 10 centigrade. That's much higher than they've been today. Winds are going to be variable in direction tonight, and during the night, they'll become southerly, increasing in strength to about force 5 to 7, possibly reaching gale force at times, and that's the forecast.
Thank you very much, Trevor, and that's all from Coast to Coast. We're back on Monday with the first full-length edition of the programme, an hour of news starting at 5:30. So do have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to being with you once again on Monday. Meanwhile, the voices of the Pestalozzi children from Sussex. If you're watching this morning, you'll know that they sang Morning Has Broken for us. Here they are now with Imagine.